All right, get ready for a deep dive into a case that I guarantee will send chills down your spine. Today, we're tackling a real head-scratcher, a mystery that is chock full of, like, conflicting testimonies, police reports, and personal accounts. And it all makes you question everything you think you know.
Yeah, what makes this case so fascinating is the seeming impossibility of it all. We have a man accused of a brutal crime, but there's evidence that suggests he couldn't have possibly been at the crime scene. It's almost as if, like, the impossible has somehow become possible.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine this.
Yeah.
A horrific crime, a prime suspect, and a rock-solid alibi. How is that even possible? That's the very question we're going to try to unpack in this deep dive. Are you ready to put on your detective hats?
I think so. Let's start at the beginning. So the brutal murder of 11-year-old Frank Peterson, it rocked the entire community of Flint City. It was a savage crime that left everyone just completely shaken.
Yeah, and the details of the case, I mean, they're truly disturbing. Frank was found lifeless with signs of a violent struggle, and, well, let's just say the brutality of the crime, it left a deep scar on the town.
And to make matters even more complicated, the prime suspect, Terry Maitland, he was a well-respected Little League coach in Flint City.
Right. And initially, all signs pointed to Terry. I mean, multiple witnesses placed him with the victim shortly before the murder. One even saw Frank getting into a van with someone matching Terry's description. The evidence, it just seemed overwhelming.
But like in any good mystery, there's a twist. Terry Maitland had an alibi. And not just any alibi, but like a rock-solid, airtight alibi.
Hold on a second. How can you have witnesses placing him at the crime scene and an unshakable alibi at the same time? Did he, like, have some supernatural power to be in two places at once?
Not exactly. It turns out that at the time of the murder, Terry was over 100 miles away in Cap City, attending a conference. And it wasn't just one or two people who saw him there. Multiple witnesses, including conference attendees, hotel staff, and even video footage, confirm his presence at the event.
So we have evidence placing him at the crime scene and equally strong evidence placing him miles away. I'm starting to feel like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole here.
I know, right? The investigators, they hit this wall of contradictions, too. And just to make things even more complicated, there was forensic evidence, like fingerprints and DNA, that linked Terry to the crime scene. I mean, the question everyone was asking was, how? How is this even possible?
Yeah, the frustration must have been immense. So what happened next? Do investigators just ignore the alibi and charge Terry with the murder despite the contradictory evidence?
Well, they were very close to doing just that. However, some cracks started to appear in the seemingly ironclad case against Terry. Details that didn't quite add up, inconsistencies that cast doubt on his culpability.
What kind of inconsistency? Tell me more about these cracks in the case.
Well, for instance, one witness claimed to have seen Terry asking for directions to a local clinic in Flint City. This is despite the fact that, Terry had lived there for years and would most likely have known the location. A little odd, don't you think?
Definitely strange. It's like whoever this person was, they were trying to appear as someone they weren't, like playing a role that didn't quite fit.
Exactly, like trying to fit in somewhere they didn't belong. And then, to add fuel to the fire, a similar case emerged in another state around the same time.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me about this other crime. How does it tie into the Frank Peterson case?
Just a few days before Frank's murder, 2 young girls were abducted and killed in Trotwood, Ohio. The brutality and methods used in that case were eerily similar to the Peterson case.
2 almost identical crimes happening within days of each other in different states. Yeah, this definitely starts to sound like something more than just a coincidence. What about that torn piece of paper you mentioned earlier? What was the significance of that?
Oh yes, that little detail. Inside the van, believed to have been used in the Peterson murder, investigators found a torn piece of paper, seemingly from a takeout menu.
Don't leave me hanging. What did it say?
The remaining text on the paper read, Tommy and Tup.
Tommy and Tup. It sounds more like a children's book than a clue in a murder case. What could it possibly mean?
I know, curious, isn't it? But that little scrap of paper, seemingly insignificant, led to a major breakthrough in the investigation. A tiny detail that opened the door to a whole new scenario, far more complex than anyone could imagine.
Tommy and Tup. Yeah, that's a peculiar name for sure. So where did that lead? What did investigators find when they, followed that thread?
Well, curiosity about the name, it led the investigators to dig a little deeper. And They discovered that Tommy and Tup actually referred to a restaurant called Tommy and Tuppen's Pub and Cafe located in Dayton, Ohio.
And of course, it didn't take them long to find out that, you know, our prime suspect, Terry Maitland, had actually visited Dayton, Ohio a few weeks before the Peterson murder.
Right, exactly, yeah. Terry had been in town with his family, and surprise, surprise, they had eaten at that very same restaurant that was mentioned on that torn piece of paper.
So we have a possible connection between Terry and Dayton, Ohio.
Hmm.
But how does that explain the alibi, the fingerprints, the DNA? I'm still not seeing how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah, it's understandable. The investigators, they felt lost in this maze of contradictions too. But remember we have two crimes with those chilling similarities. So they started looking for individuals who could have been in both Dayton, Ohio and Flint City, close to the dates of the murders.
I see where you're going with this. So did they find any link between the two locations? Someone who could be responsible for both crimes?
Yes, they did. Through the records of the nursing home where Terry's father resided, they discovered a man named Heath Holmes, who had worked there as a nurse. And guess where Heath Holmes lived?
Dayton, Ohio. You can't be serious. This can't be another coincidence.
No, not at all. It turned out that Heath Holmes, he had a history of violence and a pattern of disturbing behavior that, set off all kinds of alarm bells for the investigators. An individual who kind of fit the profile and had been in both places at the key times.
What kind of behavior are we talking about here? Can you give us some examples?
Well, for instance, Holmes had this strange habit of collecting personal belongings from the nursing home residents. It was an odd behavior that suggested, a rather unhealthy interest in his victims.
That's creepy. A detail that definitely warranted further investigation. So what did they discover when they looked into Heath Holmes?
Well, upon searching his home in Ohio, they found blonde hairs that they matched one of the girls abducted in Trotwood. And then came the bombshell. Shortly after the Peterson murder, Heath Holmes disappeared, vanished without a trace. Like he just vanished into thin air.
So this Heath Holmes, he's looking more and more like our culprit, or at least someone who knows a lot more than he's letting on. But how does he connect to Terry Maitland? I mean, they were in different states when these crimes took place. How could Holmes have framed Terry? There are still so many unanswered questions.
Well, this is where the story takes a truly bizarre turn, where the line between reality and the supernatural starts to blur. Brace yourself, because what comes next, it defies all logic.
I'm both intrigued and terrified at the same time. Go on, tell me more.
Fingerprint analysis from both crime scenes, the Peterson murder in Flint City and the murders of those girls in Ohio, it revealed something shocking. The unidentified fingerprints found in Terry's van and on the murder weapon, they were a near-perfect match to Heath Holmes.
A near-perfect match. But shouldn't fingerprints be an exact match to be considered evidence? How is it even possible for them to be almost the same but not identical?
Well, that's the question that was haunting the investigators. What if we weren't dealing with an ordinary criminal? What if the culprit wasn't human at all? It was a wild idea, but it gained momentum as the evidence mounted.
Wait a minute. Are you suggesting that a supernatural being could be responsible for these crimes? Are we stepping into the realm of the paranormal here?
In a way, yes. This is where Holly Gibney enters the picture. She's a private investigator with a unique perspective on the case. A woman who isn't afraid to explore the unknown, what lies beyond human comprehension.
What do you mean by unique perspective? What sets her apart from the other investigators?
Let's just say that Holly, she's not afraid of the unconventional, the theories that defy traditional logic. She started piecing together a theory that challenged everything the investigators thought they knew about the case. She proposed the existence of a malevolent entity, a creature capable of shape-shifting, of assuming the appearance of other people.
A shape-shifting creature? Are we talking about a changeling or something? This is starting to sound like something out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, it sounds incredible, but hear me out.
Go on, I'm all ears. How could a shapeshifter explain what we've seen in this case?
Holly believed that this entity, which she called the Visitor, could not only mimic someone's appearance, but also absorb their thoughts and memories, leaving enough traces of the original person to create, the illusion of their presence.
So you're saying this visitor could have taken the form of Terry Maitland, committed the murders, and then just vanished into thin air, leaving behind just a faint imprint of his true identity.
Exactly. That would explain how Terry could have been seen in two places at once, how his fingerprints and DNA could be at the crime scene while he had a solid alibi. It's the only explanation that fits all the pieces of this puzzle, as incredible as it may seem.
I have to admit, it's a pretty wild theory, but at the same time, there's this twisted logic to it that makes it, well, plausible.
Right.
So what happened next? Did they catch this shape-shifting creature? How do you even confront something that can be anyone and anywhere?
They did, by following a trail of clues, including scratches and traces of this strange substance that this entity seemed to leave behind. Holly and the investigators, they tracked the creature to a local tourist attraction in Marysville called the Marysville Hole. It's a deep, dark cave, the perfect hiding place from human eyes.
And then what happened? They had a showdown with this creature in the depths of that cave. How do you even fight something that can change shape at will?
Yeah, the entity, disguised as Claude Bolton, a nightclub security guard and friend of Terry Maitland, was confronted in those caves under the Marysville Hole. It was a terrifying encounter. The creature, even in its disguised form, seemed to possess this supernatural strength and this chilling ability to mimic voices and sounds, like it was some kind of a distorted echo of humanity.
And how did they manage to defeat this thing? Silver bullets, holy water. What kind of weapons do you use against a creature that seems to defy the laws of nature?
Well, it turned out the entity had a peculiar vulnerability. Certain smells, like those found in garlic and aloe vera, could weaken and disorient it. It was an unexpected weakness, like a chink in its seemingly impenetrable armor.
Garlic and aloe vera. I can't believe it. It almost sounds comical, like some kind of a home remedy for warding off evil spirits.
I know, right? It's ironic that something so simple and mundane could be the key to defeating such a powerful and terrifying creature. But it worked. Using a combination of these smells, along with the element of surprise, Holly and the investigators managed to destroy the creature. A triumph of human ingenuity over brute force and the unknown.
Wow, that's I don't know what to say. It's an incredible story full of unexpected twists and shocking revelations. A man accused of a crime he couldn't have committed, a shape-shifting creature, garlic and aloe vera. It's all so surreal.
Surreal, maybe. But the evidence, as strange as it may seem, points to this all actually happening. A story that forces us to question our perception of reality, to accept that there are things in this world that are just beyond our comprehension.
Definitely a story that leaves us with more questions than answers. So what happened after all of this? Was Terry Maitland's name cleared? What about the families of the other victims? Did they find any solace after this horrific ordeal?
Yeah, it's a story that just leaves you with this heavy feeling in your gut, knowing that Terry Maitland was a victim of such a powerful and malevolent entity is just heartbreaking. So how was the truth handled after all of this? Was justice served for the victims and their families?
The truth about the visitor and its role in the Peterson and Trotwood murders, it was handled very, very carefully. The information was controlled to prevent widespread panic. I mean, imagine the public reaction if they found out that a shape-shifting creature had been, stalking and killing innocent people. The chaos would have been unimaginable. I understand the reasoning behind that decision, though it's still unsettling, right? Hiding the truth, no matter how terrifying, it always comes with a risk. So what happened with Terry Maitland's case? Did they manage to clear his name? And was the damage that was done to him because of this entity? I mean, was it ever repaired?
Yes, his name was eventually cleared. The evidence against him was dismissed, and efforts were made to restore his reputation and, bring some semblance of justice to his family. But it was a bittersweet victory because, well, it came at a terrible cost.
What do you mean? Did the experience did it leave some kind of mark on him?
Sadly, Terry, he couldn't bear the weight of the accusation and the social stigma. Even though he was proven innocent, the damage was already done. The pressure, the fear, the uncertainty, all of it, it pushed him to a breaking point. Terry Maitland, he took his own life shortly after being released, a tragedy that reminds us of the devastating impact that false accusations and mistrust can have on a person's life, even after their innocence is proven.
It's a profoundly sad story. An innocent victim who couldn't escape the grip of fear and despair, even after the truth was revealed. And what about Heath Holmes? What became of him? Was his fate ever discovered?
Heath Holmes was never found. It is believed that the entity consumed him completely, leaving no trace, or perhaps it led him to some unknown fate, to an end that we can never truly comprehend. His disappearance, it remains a mystery, a missing piece in this macabre puzzle.
It's chilling to think that this creature, this visitor, it could still be out there somewhere, just waiting for its next victim. So what can we learn from this deep dive into a case that defies all logic and reason? How can we protect ourselves from something that we can't see or even comprehend?
Well, this case, it serves as a stark reminder that the world is a far stranger and more complex place than we often think. There are things that lurk in the shadows, things that challenge our very understanding of reality. And sometimes the most incredible stories, well, they turn out to be true.
An unsettling lesson for sure. It forces us to question our certainties, to accept that the unknown will always be there, lurking at the edges of our perception. Well, this has been our deep dive into a truly baffling case.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I need a stiff drink and a healthy dose of skepticism after this one.
I hear you. But before you reach for that drink, we want to leave you with one final thought. If a creature like the visitor was able to exist undetected for so long, what other mysteries might be out there, just waiting to be unraveled? What other seemingly impossible events might have a similarly dark and disturbing explanation? Something to ponder as you try to fall asleep tonight.
Yeah. Questions that invite us to explore the unknown, to keep our minds open to the possibilities, no matter how frightening they may be. Until next time, and remember, sometimes reality is, well, it's stranger than fiction.